So as you can see, as I rode through this section, there's a lot more inputs coming into the bike. Our gut response, or our caveman response, flight and fight based response to those inputs is to tighten up, hold our breath, tense up and grip on hard. That doesn't allow the bike to move around freely below me, and every input that the bike feels, I feel. My suspension doesn't perform as well, and there's a lot of me getting pushed around. Whereas if I just set my heel and wrist and breathing at the top, making sure that I'm just breathing normally, in, hold, out, without panting, or trying to do this whole section on one deep breath, pointing and hoping, I'm going to have a lot more energy management skills, a lot more fluidity to my riding, and just opening up the heels and wrists allows the bike to move more freely below me and push in, which I can then push against. So every time there's an input, I can drive against it as we come off these little ledges. Even if the bike dips, I don't get pushed forward, I just push against. Or if I'm going a little bit faster and I want to push off, I can just accelerate the bike off each little step and soften the landings by dropping into the pocket just behind the saddle as the bike lands. If I combine good energy management skills and I control my emotions through here, we can make sure that rather than this being a sort of a bucking bronco ride through here, we get a nice smooth ride, and actually the faster I go, the better it feels. If I'm tight, holding my breath, and my breathing goes wrong and I go into flight or fight mode, that's when things start to accelerate in terms of inputs. They're exaggerated and it feels like I'm going a hell of a lot faster than I am. You might not be the fittest, you might not have the best piece of kit, but it doesn't mean that you haven't got lots of skills at your disposal to make sure that when the going gets rougher, you can carry that speed. So by looking in the right way, by using our vision correctly, we can see things earlier. Sense of time perception slows things down for us, and we've got literally more time to do everything. It feels like we've got all the time in the world to set things up and carry out what are trained responses to particular triggers, as it were. Performance cues might trigger a negative response in you. What we need to do is learn the correct response, and that takes a little bit of time and is a very conscious effort to start with. The more you practice, the more it becomes an unconscious. Once it's an unconscious, we really don't have to think to do. And once we get to that stage, we're freeing up the brain to deal with either greater speed, greater levels of input of other information, or stuff that's further on down the trail. Getting your competencies to an unconscious level can take some time, and it's down to some deep practice. Don't just race down a section time and time trying to get a better time. Think about one particular element as we come in. So as you're coming in for the first time, even if you're not going particularly fast, think about that breathing. Then maybe once you've got your breathing set, think of making sure we're getting our basics like our heel and wrist drop set up and staying nice and loose on the bike, softening the knees. We don't want to lock anything out and we don't want to tense anything up. And just as you start to feel more confident and comfortable with those, we can start then gradually adding in the speed. The key is work on your optimal, not your maximal. If you just try and ride maximum speed down here, all you're going to do is find your limits. If we work on optimal, trying to ride cleaner and smoother and all the time and employ best practice all the time, we'll start to get better and better at performing techniques. We'll have to apply less brain power to do it, and therefore we'll free up more brain power for dealing with what's next. It can be a long process to get to create a feeling of sort of that at oneness with your bike, where you're not panicking when you look at a section, but learning to master and understanding performance cues is a really good first step. Identifying performance cues is number one. Learning to deal with them and applying the correct skill by thinking through is step two. And when we get to that stage of enlightenment where actually everything's being done almost automatically and performance cues become triggers for correct responses, that's when we're going to really carry some speed. You don't need to be the fittest, but obviously fitness helps the brain operate. The more blood that's flowing around, as we looked at earlier, or talked about earlier, it's going to help. We don't want to be hanging out our backside all the time we're riding and riding on the edge. We want to be riding at well below our maximal, but by pushing our optimal up, our speed will increase. If you try and ride fast, you end up ragged, and if you try and ride smooth, you usually end up fast. So try and don't worry too much in trying to create speed. Don't actually worry about speed as the way thinking about going fast is actually making you go fast. Think about the elements that are going to make you capable of riding faster and are going to contribute to carrying more speed, rather than just strapping on a stopwatch, opening up Strava and comparing your time each time you run down without thinking about why it was any better or any slower or any faster. So carrying speed might be your goal, But the way to achieve that goal isn't just by pedaling hard and fast and holding your breath and pointing and hoping. Engage this, think about the core skills, think about your footwork, your body position, try and avoid the push against the bike, and keep those eyes up and through. Think through, look through, and pump through, and you'll work your way through all three types of performance cue, and you'll find your speed rises as a result.